But yes, thanks very much for James, and obviously Sally. Hi, Sally, on here as well, for inviting me in to do this presentation. And I do have a slide deck as well. So today I'm going to cover off who we are, so who are Capital Content, how to create a video content strategy, the essentials you need to create that video content, production techniques. Everybody has a mobile phone in the pocket. Basically what will happen is you'll be able to walk away from today, grab your mobile phone and start creating content for your sports organization or a business, depending on who you are, and just go out there and shoot, create the content and start achieving your objectives. So we'll go straight into it. The talk will take probably about 20, 25 minutes, and then we'll open up to Q&A at the end. So hopefully everybody can hear me okay. There's no extra attendees. Cool, so we'll just kind of rock straight in. Like James said, my name's Gary. Over the past kind of 10, 15 years, I have separated my working life into three different sections. My jobs, my career, and my calling. So my jobs were that I was a removal man, a real estate agent, and a factory worker. Then I moved to NZ for 10 years. I worked for Vodafone Global at the time, and then I ran an agency whilst I was over there. I then returned back about 3 or 4 years ago and created Capital Content. But what I found is that I help businesses and organizations grow using content. And I actually wrote an autobiography called Jobs, Career, Calling that you can find on Amazon.com. So a little bit about Capital Content. So we are a digital agency. We're content-led, so we create video content first, but we can also do photo, graphic design, web design, and social media management. And it already starts with an objective. So if you wanted to increase ticket sales or raise awareness around volunteering for referees, then we help achieve that objective using video content. And it's right from your 29-second videos up to your half-hour documentaries on Prime. It's all quite simple stuff. Obviously, like James said, we are a partner of Surrey FA. We're based in Surrey, but we have a national presence. We can shoot content from, well, we've got clients right down from Cornwall Council up to Ministry of Defence up in Edinburgh. So, as an organisation, there'll be time to answer questions at the end. So if you've got any questions, write them down and we'll address them at the end if you have any. But as an organisation, you basically have three options when creating video content. You can go directly to a videographer. They are relatively low cost and you only have one person to deal with. But they're not really there to help with the concepting or to come up with the ideas. So therefore, you need to direct them. Excuse me. Then you can go directly to an agency. They are kind of mid to high cost, but they have a full team, and therefore they start bringing out portaloos and catering trucks when creating a 30-second video. And the final option is really for you guys to do it yourselves. Everybody has a 4K camera in their pocket right now. You can all create content, but really what you need to do is have some sort of structure or strategy around creating that video content. So overall video strategy is based, or the way that we base it is a TV network. So everybody knows kind of the BBC. You have obviously the network across the top, and then you have channels underneath. What I try and express is that organizations need to look at themselves as a TV network. You treat yourselves like sportsteam.tv, and then underneath that network, you have different channels. And you can imagine, like I said, with BBC One versus BBC Two, they have different types of programming. You'll see programs on BBC One that you wouldn't see on BBC Two, for example. So as an organization, you then need to see what your objectives are, and each objective turns into a channel. Let's say raise brand awareness, sell more product, whatever it might be. Each channel has its specific content. And then within the channel, you have seasons and episodes. And I always feel like I'm teaching people to suck eggs when I kind of go through this, but it's a relatively simple process, but a lot of people just kind of go out and create content without actually thinking about the structure or your objectives. And just to kind of cover it off, BBC is the network, so sportsname.tv across the top. You have BBC One, which is the channel, Planet Earth is the season, and Jungle is the episodes. And you don't necessarily need to name each channel as such. People can name the channels to kind of tell the viewer what they're about to see, but it's more about getting the organization internally to buy into what content you're creating. So like I mentioned, it's very simple stuff. If you wanted to increase volunteers, then that will be one channel. It could be referee TV, volunteer TV. And all of your content that you create is specifically around getting more volunteers into your organization. What else have we got? Channel essentials. So really, this is the 3 basic channels of content that I always explain to our clients that they actually have to have at a bare minimum. This is quite, probably the most important part of this whole TV structure. And the first channel is thought leadership. We have behind the scenes and community involvement. And I'll kind of go into those a little bit more detail. So thought leadership, like I said, each one of these is a different channel or a different objective. And your thought leadership is what I would explain, a B2B or B2C play. For you guys, for sports organizations, for example, it could be drills. It could be, learnings that you need to give to the people that you want as part of your organization to show that you know your industry or you know your organization as well as your own product itself. And it can be varying topics, it can be interviews, it can be discussions. And there's a good example of a thought leadership piece where Simon Sinek, who's an author, but he actually talks about millennials, and he doesn't sell millennials. He is an author and sells books, but him showing a thought leadership piece around millennials helps him sell books. So it's kind of a thinly veiled sales pitch. No one likes to be sold to. You don't want to go, hey, we need volunteers. What you want to do is tell a story around how volunteers make a change in your organization. The next one is behind the scenes. Now this is B2C play, which predominantly that's what the sports teams or clubs are going to predominantly be. And you kind of want to, we're just going to let someone else in. Hi to Mark that's just joined us. Hopefully, like James said at the beginning of the presentation, this will all be recorded. So you'll be able to watch this on YouTube, which is great. But explaining the second channel that any business should have is behind the scenes. It's a B2C play, and it basically allows people to see behind the logo. You don't necessarily, say for example, we sponsor a football team called AFC Brooklands. It's within Surrey, but people don't go and join that team because they've got a great logo or they've got great video content. It's because they see the people behind it, actually the committee and the people actually part of the organization. So you want to show a behind the scenes element to your sports organization, and whether that's your volunteers putting cones out in the grass or anything that you feel is something that's not the core business. So behind the scenes, effectively. Definitely do it yourself. Like I mentioned, you've got a phone in your pocket right now. It can be a mid to low production, but you've got to have some basic rules when creating your own video content, and I'll cover off those in a little bit. But there's one great example that I like to use is a company called Vent. They're like a Shopify, and basically what they did is they made a short 1 minute video They made a short 1 minute video of them moving offices. It's got nothing to do with that actual product itself, but what it showed was all of these young people, all nice and vibrant and happy, moving boxes from one location to the other. It definitely didn't sell the product or the actual service that they did, but what it did show was people behind the logo. People want to invest in people like themselves and want to see the kind of company that they're putting their money in. And then the last one, and this is probably quite a strong one for most people, for most sports organizations like yourselves, is the community involvement. And this basically encapsulates 2 strategies that I've named: the 1 mil, 2 mil, and the boomerang. Basically, the 1 mil, 2 mil is if you spend 1 million on charity, you need to spend 2 million telling people that you spend 1 million on charity. And lastly, the boomerang. So if you give back to your community then give back to you. And I think really for you guys, what you want to show is the people within the community and what they're giving back to. Let's say there's, they're doing, I think Surrey FA are doing an event with disabled and underprivileged kids over at Reading Stadium. And that kind of thing really shows what you're giving back to the community. And then hopefully, if you get the right type of content, the community will then give back to you. And a great example, and I use this for kind of corporate organizations, is the adverts a little while back with Matt Damon and Stella versus water.org. Basically, Stella have used Matt Damon to kind of tell people about them investing in water.org. Stella obviously used loads of different, loads of water, but they're investing back into Waterdog, and they show they're a moral and ethical business, and therefore people invest in that moral, ethical business. Any questions, obviously, write them down, check them at the end. Production techniques. Okay, cool. So now that we've kind of roughly gone over the video content strategy, let's go back to me. Roughly, we've gone over the video content strategy. So now you kind of know what you need to build in terms of channels. Now you want to kind of go out and start shooting all of this content. But before you kind of go out there, you need to have some basic rules, and these are those. From a beginner perspective, make sure you shoot everything horizontal. So what I mean by that is have the phone horizontal like that. Make sure you're using the rear-facing camera. Apart from the new iPhones, the front-facing camera is lesser quality than the rear-facing. Make sure it's well lit. I don't mean like make sure it's well lit. I mean make sure it's lit well. Don't have the sun behind you like I've got. Have the sun in front of you. Make sure it's not dark. And then lastly, use a selfie stick if you can. You basically want to have the phone a meter or two away from you or away from the subject when creating that video content. From an intermediate perspective, we need to use a microphone, so a lapel mic. If you can imagine, you've got a phone here and you're talking to the phone. The microphone is actually at the end here. What you really need is a microphone, excuse me for the sirens in the background, a microphone on your chest. So a £10 lapel mic from Amazon will absolutely bump up your video content, you know, tenfold. Then we need to use a spotlight. You can get cases that go round the smartphones now with lights to kind of light up the foreground. Have a tripod if you can. Again, these are like £10 from Amazon. It's a really small investment to really bump up your production quality. And then lastly, we all know the iPhone batteries are rubbish, so get yourself an external battery. Top flight piece of equipment here. It's £99 and it's called a DJI Osmo Mobile 3. Like I said, 99 quid, and basically what it will do, sorry, I do have a picture there, the Osmo Mobile 3 there. Basically it will stabilize your phone, whether you have it horizontal or vertical, you'll be able to run around and your phone will stay steady. And this is obviously great for sports. If you're running around chasing kids around a park, you really need to have this DJI Osmo Mobile 3. I'll put the picture up there again. It's only £99. It's a huge investment. It's a small investment for a huge production pump. I'll send you an affiliate link later. Cool. So prioritization. So now I'm just going to take a quick sip of my drink. And now that you have built your video content strategy, you have got your phone and you adhere to all the rules, and you've got all your ideas to go out and shoot your video content. What you need to do is prioritize all of this content. So from a prioritization perspective, I have come up with what I call a content priority matrix. Basically, it's a spreadsheet. And what I've done, you see on the table here, I have put thought leadership in that first column. And that's because that is the most important to me and my organization. Because thought leadership, for me, gives me a direct ROI. I sell my product based on the thought leadership content I create. Then behind the scenes is second most important. And then thirdly, the community involvement. And what you would do is you start with, and it's difficult for me to point out, but the topic 1 at the top left-hand corner, then the 3 touching those, and then the 5 touching those around that. And what you'll end up seeing is if you've got loads of videos that you want to create for thought leadership and not many for behind the scenes, in that spreadsheet, you'll be able to then level out, because it's all about consistency and having, you know, par for par 1 video for each channel. Like I said, all it is a spreadsheet, and it just helps you prioritize that content before you go out and shoot it. Otherwise, you don't know what you're going to do. You end up not doing it. And then fundamentally, all businesses need video content to kind of sell their product, raise brand awareness, get volunteers on board, all of that beautiful stuff. Then we have aesthetics. So I'll quickly kind of go through this. Now this, as you see on screen now, are going to be the 7 different types of shots that you guys will go out and shoot when creating your video content. There's not going to be much more outside of that. Talking heads, very simple. It's an interview. In fact, I think I'll go through those in a minute. So here, the 2 main ones are talking heads and interviews. I'll cover this off very quickly. At the top left, it looks really good. And I think you can probably agree that that video is going to be about education. That's definitely a teacher in a classroom. The guy at the bottom left, I have no idea what that's going to be about. It looks like he's in a 1920s speakeasy. It's not very well framed. Top right, I mean, I call that one crotchgate. I don't know what about the fern in the background or the weird curtains. Again, it's not very flattering light. And then bottom right-hand corner, you know, you're going to need to spend a lot of money to make it look like that, and specifically the guests. But really, you can see that there are good videos and bad videos purely based on what's in the background or what the aesthetics are. The types of shots that you guys are going to do. The first one is B-roll. Now, when you go and do an interview, let's say, you will find that when you interview somebody for 5 minutes and you only want to make a 1-minute video, you'll need to cut bits out because people ramble. By cutting those bits out, you need to hide those cuts so you don't kind of see the jumps going back and forth. You need to get relevant B-roll to hide those cuts. So, for example, the teacher, you know, she might and ah. We need to cut out those and ahs in the timeline. And by hiding those cuts, I might take a shot of, I don't know, an apple, or maybe not an apple. I mean, it's not Victorian, you know, blackboard, or, you know, whatever it might be, you know, to hide those cuts. Then you've got time lapse. Everybody likes to make a time lapse. We all know what it is. An iPhone can do it. But I always ask clients, why are you making a time lapse? What does it actually achieve? Then you've got hyperlapse, which is kind of time lapse 2.0. That's basically you walking forward as you take that time lapse. It's very cool, very easy to do. Slow motion. This is a good tip for kind of B-roll, so it kind of brings over emotion. Like I said, any questions, kind of give me a shout when you get to the end of this. But when we're watching video content, any video on TV, on YouTube, or even right now, it's 25 frames a second. In the UK, we're used to watching 25 pictures back to back each second when watching video content. If you shoot at 25 frames a second and then you half that speed, if you want to do some slow-mo, you'll see it kind of stutter a little bit. What you need to do is shoot the content in 50 frames per second. And all the iPhones can do this, all the smartphones can do this right now. But what you want to do is you shoot it at 50 frames per second and then you half the speed. And so it's all still nice and smooth. We're still seeing 25 frames a second. It's just twice as slow, or twice as quick, whatever it might be. Then we have selfie style, which is great for LinkedIn. It's great for doing your thought leadership piece. You do need a selfie stick. And what I recommend is don't do the thought leadership in the car. It's oversaturated. No one cares that you're in the car. It seems a bit weird that you're actually doing a video in the car. Just do it with, you know, like I've got my fridge here. You know, do your thought leadership in your natural surroundings, because people want to see that. People want to see behind the logo. They don't want to see the back seat of your car. Okay, cool. So then now we're on to the application. So there's only a couple more slides left, which is really good. I'm going to take a quick sip. The applications that that you guys can use without spending loads of money. So you've built the video content strategy. You've prioritized all the content you're going to make. You've learned the rules on how to actually hold the phone and what equipment to use when creating your video content. Now you've gone out and shot it. You need to take it back home and start editing it. And these are the top 3 apps that we would use for consumer base or for DIY video content. So the first one is iMovie. It comes free with all Apple Macs at the moment. It's a very watered down version of what the pros or what we would use. You've then got Spark Post, which is great for images, motion graphics, and text. I think that's, you know, maybe 99p or £10 a year or something. But you can make some really great looking content within like 60 seconds. It's an amazing app. Adobe Rush. Now that sits by Adobe, just like Spark Post. Adobe Rush is video content editing, and it sits between the basic users for iMovie and the pro users for the professional Adobe Creative Cloud that I've got listed there. They talk to each other, so you can create content in Adobe Rush. And again, I think that one's probably about £10 a month. So from a video content perspective, iMovie Beginner, Adobe Rush Intermediate, and professional Adobe Creative Cloud. That's like £1,000 a year, and you might as well get us to make it for you if you're going to spend that kind of money. This is a good one. So these are 2 websites that we really use. The first one is artlist.io. That is £150 a year, and they offer copyright-free music. They've got like 10, 20,000 songs. So any music that you use, you can't be using pop songs because YouTube and Facebook will just take down that video because you didn't pay 100 grand for those rights. Artlist.io, like I said, is 150 US a year, and you get access to 10, 20,000 songs that you can put over the video content that you create. The other one is rev.com, rev.com. And basically they will create subtitles for your video content for 25 cents a minute. And that's not how long it takes them to create the subtitles. It's actually how long the video is. So if you're making a 1-minute video, it will cost you 25 cents to add subtitles. You upload it, they've got this automated process where they send you back a file where they've listened to the voice and created the text. It's 99% accurate, but by adding subtitles, not only are you helping with accessibility, but 85% of all video content is consumed whilst on mute because they might be on the train, in the car, whatever it might be. So if you've got subtitles, people are going to watch that video content more than they are if there aren't any subtitles. And lastly, so we're almost at the very end there, clients tend to ask me, where do I put my video content? Do I put it on Facebook or do I put it on YouTube? And actually there's, yes, both of them is the answer. One is an influencer and one is a catalog. So if you were to go to Google or YouTube right now, you already know what you're going to search for. And you're more inclined to watch a longer video if you go to YouTube. With Facebook, for example, that's an influencer. You can push videos in front of people, but you don't really want to watch a video. You don't want to watch a 3 to 5 minute video on Facebook. So the trick is to create a 15-second trailer of the long form video content that you're going to create, push that out over Facebook, and then use YouTube to host the 3-minute or the long form video content that you're going to create onto your website. One major tip is, let's say you are, I don't know, Guildford FC, for example. Not that I know all the team names, but Guildford FC, they've made this nice little video. They've put it on their website using YouTube. And at the end, what they do is YouTube will go, oh, up next, or videos that you might like. And what they might do is actually put Farnham FC's video on there. So there could be a potential that a prospective volunteer might watch a competitor's club's video on your website. So definitely turn off the up next or recommended videos. Definitely for sports organizations, if you need volunteers, because they might find a club that's closest to them and really you want to capture those eyeballs. And that's about it. So just as a recap, all organizations, sports and business, need to see themselves as a TV network. So a network across the top, let's push this slide up, a network across the top, and underneath that network you have channels, seasons, and episodes, all very simple stuff. Now, the 3 basic channels you need are thought leadership, behind the scenes community involvement, have a mixture of professional content versus DIY. If you do create your own video content, make sure you adhere to those basic rules, keeping it horizontal, having a light, using a microphone. And then to prioritize all that content, you should use the content priority matrix. Like I said, the slides or this video will be up on YouTube, so you'll be able to take a screenshot and create your own content priority matrix. But that is pretty much it, I think. Yeah, that's